Hi guys, it's me, Tony Smalley, purveyor of nonsense, and me and Tater wrote a spooky tale for you, because it's Halloween, obviously, and he wanted to go all Crypt Keeper on y'all and make you scream, but I shushed him and said that wasn't fair to the scary guys, like Michael Myers and the Creeper and so forth, because maybe they would like to change their image. So, here is a tale on their attempts to do just that. It's called The Seriously Misunderstood Alliance of Creepers Coalition. Smack. So, this year on All Hallows Eve, Frankenstein Monster, aka Frank, has called a meeting amongst his creeper buddies to discuss his vision for their future. He has decided to form the Seriously Misunderstood Alliance of Creepers Coalition as part of their new mission statement, which is, we aim to maim, scare, and kill. But first and foremost, we are people, or blobs, goblins, and demons, and want to treat our victims as we would want to be treated if we were a victim too. So, with the creepers gathered around a campfire in Sleepy Hollow, and the Headless Horseman on security duty, Frank calls the meeting to order. Welcome to our first SMAC meeting. First order of business, I think some of us need to change our names. You know, something that says, I'm about to maim or kill you, but I'm a person too, and will feel really bad about it. For example, Frank gestured to the leprechaun, who was busy jabbing his 2 fingers at Michael Myers' eyes, stopping before they went into his mask. He don't flinch, not once. Jesus! The leprechaun peered into Michael's eyes. Bet he's got a face like a smacked arse under there. Frank cleared his throat. I was thinking the leprechaun should be leper. What? The leprechaun whipped his head around. That's feckin' arseways. That ain't even a name. It's a serious medical condition. Exactly the point. It will say, hi, I'm leper. I'm not feeling well and my skin is in horrible condition. And I bet you, Frank paused to shake his finger at the leprechaun knowingly, I bet you the person you're trying to run over with your tricycle will be like, oh, poor little bugger. The leprechaun folded his arms and stewed for a minute before muttering under his breath, Leonard. Make it Leonard. That's the spirit. Frank patted Leonard on the back. Okay, next. Frank's gaze fell on the old man hooked up to a ventilator, who was glaring at them through narrowed eyes as if he were judging their every breath. The man pulled off his oxygen mask, coughed, then said in a hoarse voice, I want to play a game. Leonard clicked his tongue and muttered, no good bleeding, Bowsy. Frank took off his glasses and wiped them off, then said through gritted teeth, Jigsaw. Jigsaw spat. You all disgust me. No respect for yourselves or the terror you bring down upon your victims. Excuse me. Do you even believe that I want to make you better bullshit? Frank said. Disgusting. Making your victims cut their own arms and legs off when you should be doing it yourself. You're sick. And I don't think you appreciate us. That's it. We've all agreed. We hate you. What? Jigsaw said. Yes, you suck. Get the hell out of here. Go. Whatever, Jigsaw said as he started to get up. He clutched his heart and keeled over, dying of a heart attack. Frank clapped his hands together and said, too bad. Well, now that that's taken care of, who else needs to change their name? Frank spun around slowly on his heel, tapping his chin, while the remaining 8 demons and sociopaths hunched over and avoided his gaze. Frank smiled at the creeper, who was hiding his face in his wings. I know you're under there, creeper, Frank said. And it's no longer creeper. Frank pulled the creeper's wings apart and looked into the demon's face. It's now Carl. The demon scowled and pursed his lips, then spat, fine, but I want to change my theme song. Carl stomped his foot and jutted out his lower lip. Why? Frank said. It has quite a nice jingle to it. Also, it's very upbeat, just the kind of image we are trying to adopt. I suppose, Carl said, but it makes me sound like a half-wit. Seriously, where'd I get my peepers? First, peepers, lame. And second, they damn well know where I got my peepers. I ripped them out of their damn head. Frank narrowed his eyes at Carl as he thought for a moment, then said, I'm sending you to anger management next week. Get over it. Also, discard the bodies when you're done. Do you see humans hanging up the pig and chicken parts they don't use? The leprechaun cackled. No, because they puts it in their bologna. Ah, there we go. Frank smiled at Carl. Use the scraps to make a nice sandwich, and voila! With a clean, creepy creeper cave and a full fridge, people will be more likely to want to come over and hang out. Carl rolled his eyes. And lose the attitude. Oh, and get rid of your hunk of junk POS truck and get a nice new Toyota or something. Well, that's it for name changes. Frank pushed his glasses up and flipped through the pages of his agenda. Next order of business, we need to discuss some of your habits regarding the treatment of women. Listen, one of our new strategies is to avoid objectifying women. Would you all agree? Grumples of consent went around the campfire, but one creeper remained silent. Frank walked around the fire and stopped in front of the man who was disinclined to agree. He was wearing a blonde wig, tighty-whities, and a sparkling blue cape. Buffalo Bill, Leonard, the leprechaun, interrupted, is one crazy sick mofo. Yes, really, Bill, Frank said. You are like the worst one here. I don't even know what to do with you. First, you need to stop picking on fat girls. How do you think that makes the skinny girls feel? You shouldn't be so biased. They'll start to develop complexes and start eating boxes of Twinkies, so you'll notice them. Please, for all our sakes, try to spread the love. Buffalo Bill stared up at him and said, It pits the lotion. And stop that. Tired of hearing it, Frank said. You need to respect those ladies. They aren't objects or animals, so use female pronouns. Do it. Buffalo Bill sighed and said, She rubs the lotion on her skin, or else she gets the hose again? That a sport, Frank said. And on that note, not only are we avoiding the objectification of women, we no longer will be attacking mothers or children. What the hell? Freddy Krueger threw his arms out, his claw ripping into Michael Myers' shoulder. Everyone gasped. Oh, you're in big trouble. He'll bust you up, Leonard said. After several minutes of the creepers staring at Michael, who remained adamantly still, they breathed a collective sigh of relief. Frank turned back to Freddy and said, Remember what happened to Cujo? You don't want to go down that road now, do you? Downing bottles of liquor to soothe his depression, then going apeshit on a little boy and his mama. And where is he now? That's right. He's down at the nut house on Shutter Island. So that's my final word. No more attacking children or mothers. Freddy frowned. Can we still scare them? Then he put his hands on his knees, bent down and squealed like a child begging to ride the carousel for the 50th time. Please, please, please. I swear. Scout's honor. Freddy put his hand over his heart. Only scaring, no touching. Frank pulled his glasses off and wiped them vigorously. Okay, fine. Christ, y'all are like a bunch of 2-year-olds. Anyway, Freddy, I called a seamstress to fix that sweater. And she'll get you a brand new trendy hat for your head, too. Freddy pulled his fedora off and said, Actually, that would be quite nice. Pansy, Leonard muttered. The leprechaun was sitting at Michael's feet, painting rainbows on the sociopath's shoes. Frank gulped. Michael? He paused. Out of all the creepers, he was only scared of this one. He was able to keep the others under control, and though Michael had never threatened Frank personally, the emotionless man's constant silence felt like the taut springs of a jack-in-the-box ready to burst out at any moment. Frank shoved Leonard away as he bent down in front of the white-masked man. Michael was sitting straight up, with his hands on his knees, staring into the fire. Silent. Frank looked at him and said, We need to do something about your communication skills, pal. Can you use your words? Michael remained silent. See your buddy Leatherface over there? Frank pointed at the just as silent man to the left of him. See how his mask looks happy? He has on his old lady mask today. Isn't that nice? Blonde wig is a nice touch too. It says, I'll bake you a nice cherry pie before I kill you. Leatherface raised his rolling pin and poked Michael with it in the shoulder. Michael still didn't say anything. Frank snapped his fingers. I know. He took a red marker from his back pocket and drew a wide grin on Michael's face. Perfect! You look so happy now. Carl gave Michael a thumbs up from across the fire. Freddie gave him a tentative smile, his lip quivering at the edges. Buffalo Bill cheered, Looks great! No, it looks stupid, Leonard cackled, rocking back and forth, clutching his stomach as he laughed. Frank ignored the leprechaun, placed a hand on Michael's knees and said, Now people won't think you're a sociopath. There's more inside you, you big brute. Michael still did not speak or move. Frank looked over at Freddie sitting on his right. Do we know if he speaks English? Or maybe he's deaf. I bet that's the problem. Using exaggerated gestures and moving his lips to pronunciate the words so Michael could make them out, he said, Don't worry. We will get you a hearing aid. Michael lifted his arms and, without taking his eyes from the fire, placed his hand on Frank's shoulder and tipped him over. As Frank stood back up, brushing the dirt from his knees, he said, I'll just get you a puppy. Puppies soften the hardest of hearts. Michael growled. Better make it a kitten, Freddie said. Right, Frank said. Okay, kids. Last order of business. Frank took off his glasses and softened his voice. We have a creeper who needs our support right now. Count Dracula. Whispers and hushed giggles traveled around the circle. Count Dracula, who had been sitting in the shadows outside the circle, hung his head as a tear fell, moistening the dirt at his feet. Frank put his fingers to his lips and shushed the group, giving Leonard a hard kick in the gut, then said, You've had a rough few years now, Count Dracula. Really. Look on the bright side. You're a step ahead of the rest of us. Count Dracula grabbed his hair and pulled anguish-cutting creases across his forehead. A step? A step? More like a trillion steps ahead. Damn writers turning me into a silly, sparkling, prancing fairy prince. Yeah, right, like I dress like an 18-year-old boy and go to high school every day for 500 years just to try to live a normal life among humans, while taking my clothes off and bathing in the warmth of the sunlight to show off my chiseled, shimmering pectoids to woo just one girl. Holy show, Leonard murmured and whistled. Dracula picked up a rock and threw it at Leonard, then stomped away, disappearing into the darkness of the night. Shame, what a shame, Frank said. We'll have to have a bake sale and throw a party for him or something. I think that addresses every issue tonight. Frank paused when he saw the blob oozing on the ground beside the hay bale at Michael's feet. I'm sorry, Blob. Didn't really hear much from you tonight. Do you have anything to add? The pile of red goo smacked its gooey, blobby arm on the ground and sputtered, Bob, how many times have I told you it's Bob, not Blob? I'm more than just a pile of goo. Sorry, Bob, but you need to get on Weight Watchers or something, because you are hefty. People might feel okay about you consuming them if you tried not to eat the entire town, buildings and all. You should know better. That's bad manners. Bob blew red bubbles at Frank, who swatted them away, sending them toward Michael. One little bubble swayed gently side to side like a leaf, falling in front of Michael's eyes, who followed its slow descent to the palm of his hand. The bubble did not break. It just sat there bobbing up and down. A rumble pulsated within Michael's chest as his shoulders bounced up and down. Leonard gasped. Holy shite! The Manky Monk Savage is laughing! Unfeckin' believable. Slowly, the rest of the creepers joined in. Freddie, Buffalo Bill, Carl, Leatherface, even Frank chuckled. Leonard merely rolled his eyes. They were having a jolly good time. Until the bubble burst. As the laughter died down, Michael continued to stare at his hand. Then a high-pitched wail pierced the night sky. Tears fell from under his mask, and he wrapped his arms around himself as he cried. And of course, Leonard found this amusing. I'd give all me gold away to stay here and listen to this all night. Michael jumped to his feet, grabbed the leprechaun by his neck, and shoved him into Bob's stomach. Bob's goo muffled Leonard's cries. Looking around the circle at the nonchalant faces, it would appear nobody cared to help him. "Screw this," Carl said, then spread his wings and took off into the night. Freddie clicked his claws together, and with a mischievous grin skipped into the forest. Buffalo Bill held out his arms and twirled his cape about as he sang, "It puts the lotion, puts it on, rubs it on, puts the lotion on its skin." Michael stopped crying, pulled a butcher knife out, and headed toward town. Leatherface pulled his chainsaw out and followed his buddy. Frank stood inside the campfire circle, watching the creepers disperse, except for Bob, who jiggled on the ground as he belched and rubbed his belly. Frank sighed. "Well, I think that went about as well as it could, considering." Frank rubbed his glasses so hard they shattered into pieces. "Oh, feck it." Frank threw the glasses to the ground, tore his clothes up, and wiped his flesh-tone-colored makeup off, revealing his green skin. Then he stiffened his joints and hobbled toward the human festivities of All Hallows Eve. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Happy Halloween.